Looking to make a difference with your shopping? Visit communitypayitforward.us. Select the mission or cause you want to support and scan the QR code. You have two options. Click the first link and browse our giving partners, or use the second link to tell us what you need, and we'll find the right partners for you. Shop with these partners and keep your receipt or invoice. Next, click a picture or simply upload a picture of your receipt to the portal in every form, adding your name and email address. Your purchase now turns into a donation to the mission you've chosen. Community Pay It Forward shares your business story with those in need of your services to rally support for those who need us all.
Born into a real fight wasn't right. Where can she dream here? Took a hold of her.
Hey everybody, how's it going? So we're going to try this again, all right? We're on a 3-week roll here. 3 weeks ago, actually it was a month ago, I was kicked off my own show. Couldn't do the show. Just wouldn't let me come on. Thanks to the internet. The week after that, it had kicked off. Nobody, actually, that show was okay. Oh, no. That was the show that we could not connect with Melissa. The show after that, we did okay. And then, of course, last week, we had terrible storms. By the way, it's looking a little cloudy out there right now. So hopefully the storms stay away so we can have a decent, and it just blinked on me. Yeah. So we can have a decent show here. Hey, everybody, my name is Zach Clayton, Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels, where we share your business story with those in need of your services to rally support for those who need us all. We do this by our very unique platform. It's called Shop, Click, and Pick, which is constructed to empower change and create impact to bridge consumerism with compassion by turning an affiliate award into a donation. If you'd like to know more about that, please scan the QR code above my head. That goes to my For My card. That's how you can get a hold of me. It's an easy process. I'd like to welcome you all here. We have a couple recorded shows that we're going to play for you, a couple recorded interviews. We are going to be switching to a recorded format for most of the shows, just due to the issues that we've been having. I'd like to make sure that we're having a consistent show. So we are going to end up going, and I need everybody to bear with me for a little bit, because until we get everything situated, it's going to be a little hit or miss. So we are planning on going live again on with Footprints Forward here in about 3 weeks. We're going to continue just to play past shows, but then we're going to go live again on Mondays in about 3 weeks. Get to be a grandpa for the first time for a couple young men that are joining us here from Oklahoma. It's quite an experience, I'll tell you. It's kind of neat. 2 years ago I had no grandkids, and now I got 7. And no, that doesn't mean that I've got kids that were working quickly. That just means that I got married and I became a grandpa. And it's really neat having kids around the house again. It's really neat being able to take care of them. With that comes a lot of the worries that a lot of people have. And comes the realization that there are kids all over the world right now that are suffering. I had a conversation today with a great group of people, and we're going to be working with them. They have created this this fundraiser for our friends at the Happy School in Africa. African rules are so much different than we are. They have to rent out their school for multiple years. They have to come up with the money, and they have to rent it out for multiple years, not months, not weeks, but years. And folks, when it comes to it, these schools are the only opportunity some of these children have to eat, get clothing. This is the only life that they have. This is the only excitement that they have. So please visit that link and see what's going on. See if you can maybe go on and help them out. Every dollar, and let's see here. I figured this out. Every one US dollar equals 128.5 Kenyan shillings. So you will see that on this fundraiser, they have a shilling count of $300,000. That sounds a little, it sounds a little daunting, but the truth is that, $1 equals 128 Kenyan shillings. So we're asking you just to go on to this Mchanga, Africa. It's just a fundraiser. I've talked to the people. You're going to be seeing a couple of videos that I'm working with them. We're going to be doing some stuff together, including sharing stuff like our Happy Gardens Community School. This is their share. This is how you can get a hold of them, and this is how you can support them with the Community Pay It Forward program. You scan that QR code, you shop with any of our partners. Again, shop, click, and pick. Take a picture of a receipt with any of our giving partners. Our giving partners give us a affiliate award every time that you shop with them. You get to choose who you want to sponsor. Sponsoring something like the Happy Gardens Community School means so much because these kids are out there, and these kids, this is the only chance a lot of them have to eat. Look, I've stated this before. I understand that we are in the United States, and I understand there's a lot of people who want to concentrate on the United States. That is perfectly fine. Okay, I'm going to bring myself back on the camera because I really want you guys to understand what I'm saying here. This is perfectly fine. I understand that. But with our program, you can do things like purchase a website from Mr. Z for your child's wedding, for your wedding, whatever it is. You can attend Kyle's, you guys just saw me mention Kyle. You can attend one of his programs. That right there would be 2 donations. You can put those 2 donations to do 2 different things. And by the way, you didn't spend an extra penny. All you did was make purchases that you need to do for your business, for your home, for your life. These folks are going to give us an affiliate award. Okay? Whether it's $10, whether it's $100, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. 75% of that affiliate award goes to one of these organizations like the Happy Gardens Community School, or like many other ones. You saw Maria Burney Boston Foundation, Scholarship Foundation. That's right here in the United States. Look, the fact is that we've got kids, and kids should not take the brunt of what's going on. I've said it before. I've said it all the time, and I apologize for saying it so often. I love my kids. Yours, not so much. But the fact is that every child deserves a chance. If we're not giving these kids a chance, we're telling them that they're not worth it. And that's not true. I'm sorry, but that's just not true. Let's give them a chance. Let's see what they can do. You know, we have a tendency to a lot of times take and throw the baby out with the bathwater before before the baby even does anything wrong. As adults, we do what happened to us a lot. We discount these kids today because, well, these kids are all lazy. They don't need to do all this, blah, 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 blah. The fact is that we didn't work near as hard as our grandfathers did. We didn't have to. Things progressed. These kids are learning AI. They're learning how to do things with AI, with video games, for God's sakes. They're learning to do things that we would have never known about. Let's learn from them, and let's stop worrying about where a kid is located. Let's just start taking care of them. You can always go to communitypayitforward.us. That's communitypayitforward.us, and go to the Cub Club page. And you can see some wonderful things that we're trying to do with the Cub Club, including getting your kids involved in creating collection boxes for when it comes time to the dreaded holidays. We're going to be talking about that here real soon. The chili cook-off for the chili cook-off and book drive and poker for pediatrics is going to be coming up in, I believe it's the first part of November here in Greeley, Colorado. If any of you guys are looking for a nice vacation, come and join us. Great chance to watch a little bit of football and participate in a chili cook-off and help out 8 Northern Colorado hospitals. How in the hell did I forget one of the hospitals? And, because this is Northern Colorado, just to let you know, there might be 10 by the time November comes. They could start building one tomorrow, which, hey, good on them. If we need them, let's get them built. I've got these 2 recordings coming up tonight. And the first recording is a lady that I met a couple weeks ago, and her story touched me because her story was very similar to mine. She was in an accident. She was hit by a drunk driver, and it affected her life, and she's gotten into doing some things. And we all use the term brain injury, but traumatic brain injury. She uses traumatic brain recovery, which is a neat twist on things, especially when it comes to head. A twist, because we all know how twisted some people's heads are. But she focuses on traumatic brain recovery. And it's really, really interesting. And I really appreciated everything that she went through and all the things that she has done to recover herself, and now taken it a step further and tried to help other people recover the same. After that, and I'm just going to put this out here, and I'm just going to warn everybody right now, you're going to meet one of our brand new dual partners. She is a brand new giving partner. We are going to create a grant system to help out women who need her service. And again, parental discretion for this one. Holly, at 11 years old, was raped, her and a friend. And her friend was never able to pull her life together, and she ended up dying of an overdose. I'm going to let Holly tell the story because she does a hell of a lot better job than I do of the story. But the truth is, she not only lived her own trauma, she also lived the trauma of her friend, because she watched her friend slip into an abyss that she just couldn't help. So Holly wants to take, and with her training and everything that she's doing, she's wanting to build a recovery program for women who have gone through these traumas and they need help. Community Pay It Forward, we want to team with her and make sure that women who can't afford her program, we can try to help them out. So please, we will be releasing more information as this comes along, but please consider, again, another person. You can go on to communitypayitforward.us, find the mission partners, and you can help them out. But first, I want to introduce you to Danielle Matthews. Again, this is from Brain Body Self, is her company, brainbodyself.com. So first off, it is Danielle Matthews, and then after that, we will be doing the interview. It's Past Footprints Forward. And again, folks, if you got kids in the room, this might be one to come back and watch because this is really, really sensitive, uh, but important information. But first, I'm proud to introduce you to my new friend, Danielle Matthews. Danielle Matthews, not Daniel, Danielle Matthews. Talked to Danielle yesterday. We had a great conversation. We were introduced by a mutual acquaintance, and he knew that we were going to get along because we both have one thing in common. Danielle, I think that you would agree with this. We both deeply care for other people, their health and wellness. I would like to welcome Danielle Matthews to the show.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on. And yes, I think we certainly do. Going through things like we've gone through and losing our own health and kind of coming back from that and climbing back from that. You've got nothing but an open heart for other people that are going through it.
That was the other thing is that you and I have both lived a life with head injuries and had to come back from that. Could you explain a little bit about what happened with your head injury?
Yeah, it's interesting because the anniversary of the accident is just in a few days. June 23rd of 2012, I was hit by a drunk driver and sustained what was classified as a mild traumatic brain injury, which I have since the first day they kind of gave me that label, like laughed at. And I'm like, what an oxymoron. There's nothing mild about a brain trauma, but as they nicely reminded me, like I could have been in a coma, I could have needed to learn how to walk and talk again. And I was fortunate enough that, mine wasn't that severe. However, it was severe enough that it pulled me from my life. I mean, I could not concentrate for more than 10 minutes at a time. I was dealing with the most intense migraines you've ever felt. I was dizzy all the time. I couldn't handle any sort of input. It was like, you probably know what this feels like, but it was like everything was coming at me at once. So a light, just natural light, like the sun, it felt like someone was shining a flashlight in my eye. The sound of the AC going and somebody like with their fork and knife on a dinner plate was just like a cacophony of noise in my head. And so I could not handle light. I could not handle noise. My mood changed completely. I became very short and, I'm typically a very happy, bubbly person, but it was like, I just couldn't, I was on edge all the time. And, I attempted to go back to work. I've been an athlete my whole life. So you kind of just like grit and bear it, right? Because I thought, okay, I can just push through. I'm going to be uncomfortable for a little while. But it became very clear very quickly that this was not the type of injury that you could just push through. And unfortunately, mine didn't clear up. They thought it would clear up in a month. And then they said 3, and then they said 6. And at my 1-year appointment, I was told, this is just your new normal. And you need to adjust your life around your symptoms.
I remember that. I remember that conversation. Well, this is, welcome to life. And it was like, no, I don't like this life. And I'm very, very familiar with what you said, and especially at restaurants, because I lost hearing in one ear. Not only do I have that same thing that you hear the silverware scraping on the plate, which is just, ugh, but you can also hear people lip smacking and stuff like that, and you're like, that, it makes it hard to enjoy anything. It really does. It makes it difficult. And I sympathize with you there because I do uh have similar effects from my accident. You, however, found a product that you love and swear by and now are associated with it. Tell me about it.
Well, so my journey was interesting. After I was told that by my doctors, I think of how many people, like you were one of them, right, have sat in a room and been told by this authority figure, like, there's nothing you can do. This is your new normal. Accept it. And something within me, now I know it to be my higher self, but at the time I had no idea. But something within me just said, this isn't going to be your future. Like, just, you're not accepting this. It's a hard no. And I was like, all right, he's fired. We're not coming back to this doctor. We'll figure out something. But the truth of the matter was that I was an emotional mess. My mental health was not good. I was extremely depressed. I was having panic attacks on the regular. I had a ton of anxiety because I just thought, what's my future going to be? I was 24 when I was told this. So I'm watching friends of mine, go on to get MBAs. They were becoming doctors. They were, just getting PhDs. I mean, I had a pretty smart group of friends to go on and do all of those things. But, I was on the sidelines of life, and it was not a place that I was used to being. And so we'll come back to all of that because there's so much there to unpack. But what's interesting is I started to learn to master my inner world, which we'll get into in time. But once I did, that's when that product that you mentioned came into my life. And I believe now that it was like, well, it was able to be attracted in because I was ready, because I had kind of learned the lesson that I was meant to learn through that challenge, through that obstacle, which was mastery of my inner world, my emotions, my mind, my thoughts, and to connect in with something higher. And the product that came in was something called a SIA, which I think you talked about on your show before, and it changed my world. I mean, it was something that my degree's in biology, so initially I laughed at it, and I was like, this sounds a little bit like way too good to be true. And the research back then, this was circa like 2014. Okay, so this was like a while ago. They didn't have a lot of research on it, and I just thought I just dismissed it. And my mom and my dad started using the product and had really great results. My mom with bone on bone issues in her hands, couldn't make a full fist after using it. She could. And my dad, he had an injury from 30 years prior, started to feel better within like 10 days. And they just said to me, look, like, this stuff can't hurt you and it might help you. Like, you should just do it, and I thought, all right. And I did. And turns out redox, which is what they have, redox signaling molecules, was a liquid that I just drank, and I did like 8 ounces a day, every day. And I kept saying, you're wasting your money. This is silly. This is stupid, but about 3 months in, that pounding that had been relentless for 2 years, just was no longer there. And I started to be able to concentrate. I started to be able to get the words out that I wanted to, rather than having to talk around the word because I couldn't get the word out. I wasn't having to nap. Like, it was unbelievable, the shift that started. I was still sensitive to noise and light. Like, it wasn't like, oh, a switch flipped and she was better, but there were these like subtle improvements, well, and not so subtle improvements that hadn't been happening on my journey. And I changed nothing but the redox. So it became one of these things that, like, at least the way I look at things, when we go through things, I think we're meant to turn around and help other people through that. And so after having gone through that, I just went, well, this came into my life for a reason. It's a biotech company. It's a breakthrough health technology. The world needs to be educated on it. And I just happen to know about it before the masses do. And so, I started to share with others. And over the last, all the years that have passed since then, I've helped literally thousands of people around the world with it. And it's been like a wild ride, to watch other people's health get to shift and change, and for people to regain and to have options and hope. And it's just like, I don't know, I get paid in goosebumps, and I think, wow, like, good came from a drunk driver, and my life seemingly to be ruined has actually kind of, it's like the phoenix coming out of the ashes. It's like just this beautiful thing that's happened, the ripple effect because of it.
I I had an interview yesterday that someone was interviewing me, and I had the almost exact same reaction that you just had. It wasn't that I wanted to blame the people for putting me in the ditch for 7 hours, because look what's come of it. We're trying to help people. I don't think I'd walk up to them and shake their hand and thank them, but I'm not gonna allow my life to be dictated by that one accident. So,
Mhm.
um, along with the ASEA, you also started your own program trying to help people, and we're showing it here. Can you tell us about what you do with the body and self?
Yeah. So, as I was kind of mentioning briefly, when my doctor told me that, something inside of me just like switched. And it was almost like I got punched in the gut and wanted to, respond. But I couldn't change my head injury. I couldn't change the fact that I was dealing with these physical symptoms. And so I thought to myself, okay, if life is a game and I'm here to play it, I want to win. Right. And how do you win the game of life? And for me, it's just about happiness, inner peace. Like, if you have that, in my opinion, you're winning. And so I thought, all right, there's some things I can't change. It's like there's new rules that have been put on my game. And those rules included all the limitations that I was explaining to you earlier, with my brain trauma. And I just thought, all right, well, what can I do? Like, I've been focused for over a year on all the things I can't do. So let's now focus on some of the things that I can do. And I just started to really watch my mind, because my mind would consistently jump to, well, I want to go back to my past life, or what the heck am I going to do in my future? And I was just constantly living in the past or the future and not in the present moment. And so what happened, Zach, over time, and this is ultimately what has created this course that I've done called Inner Management Mastery, is I figured out how to be in the complete present and in every single moment, monitoring my own thoughts, realizing I don't have to give them energy, realizing there's something there that's before the thought even occurs, as the thought is there, and after the thought leaves. And I thought, okay, well, what is that thing? Because that thing that's there is like the witness to it all. And it's peaceful. And it's something that is allowing, like, it's almost like the eye of the hurricane. It's just this peaceful center. And the more that I just released my thoughts, stopped engaging with them, disidentified from them, and just stepped back and back and back more, I became more and more and more peaceful. And I started to do a practice called Yoga Nidra, which on my website, the self section is all about Yoga Nidra. It's a guided meditation. It's done laying down in a dark room. And, with the brain injury, that's something that you can 100% do. So I was like, okay, let's focus on the can
You
do.
enjoy doing.
Exactly. It's like, oh, this is something that feels fabulous. But Yoga Nidra is really interesting because it's not like sleep. But it does mirror it. So the yogis figured out how to basically take your brain waves and drop them down into theta, into delta, the same way that you do when you go to sleep. And there's this like trap door that opens up where you move into the meditative space. You're not falling asleep. You're not unconscious. You're completely conscious, but completely relaxed. And it will take people into a deep meditation effortlessly, whether you are an experienced meditator or you've never meditated before. And so I actually started to do the practice of Yoga Nidra because I had a hard time sleeping. It was just one of the symptoms that I was dealing with. And so I thought, well, if this mirrors sleep, like maybe I can use this to like retrain myself how to sleep. So that's why I initially started. And I slept through the whole night the first time I did it. And then I started to use it if I felt a migraine coming on, and it would stop the migraine from getting full blown. And then I started to use it, when I felt the panic attacks, when I felt the anxiety, when I felt all these emotions. And so lo and behold, I ended up doing this like daily. And all of a sudden, that center, that peaceful center, it was just like widening, and it just became kind of who I was. And that anxiety, the depression, the thoughts, it was like I was learning how to master my inner world. And I was learning what was real and what wasn't, and taking control of it and going, okay, this is a place where I do have control and I can make a decision. And I think, and many people would probably say this, like, I felt like a victim after my car accident for a long time. Like, well, this shouldn't have happened, and it's not fair, and it definitely shouldn't have happened to me, and blah, 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 blah. All the things we tell ourselves. And, people tell you too. And in doing that, when you're in a victim mentality, like, you're helpless, it's like, well, something external acted upon me, and now I'm at a disadvantage, and I can't do anything about it. And I was just like, I'm taking my power back. And I'll tell you what, through, interestingly, the meditation, I learned to take my power back. I learned what was in my control, and I stopped relying on the external world. And I realized, wow, there is a world within me that is much clearer, much more comfortable. And also, like, my intuition started, like, it would say, hey, go do this, or hey, why don't you go cook this, or why don't you go draw, or why don't you go read, or how about this, or how about that? And all of a sudden, like, this whole new world was introduced to me. So, that was the beginning of, I would say, more of like a spiritual awakening to the fact that there is more than our own mind that's here. And it's been an amazing journey, and so the program that you asked about, Inner Management Mastery, has really been the culmination of my healing journey over the last now 12 years since my accident, and the revelations that have come, since. And it's incredible course. It's just 6 weeks, and it's like a deep dive. People get a personalized Yoga Nidra practice, as well as another incredible modality called yoga therapy. and a lot of insights into, ancient wisdom, stuff that I think has been lost on us in our modern times.
Hmm.
We get sucked into things, the material world that doesn't really matter. And there's so much more to this life and like why we're here. But until you get slowed down, like you were and like I was, sometimes you're so sucked into the world that you don't have the time to ask, you don't even consider. But I would say if everyone was very honest with themselves, they have a gnawing inside of them that is this question of like, well, why am I here? And isn't there more? And what's the purpose of all of this? And when you actually sit down enough to really ponder those questions, the answers come. And it's incredibly self-empowering.
Let me, and this is a question that it's actually come up a couple times, and I've been interested in the answers. With your program, if someone considers themselves a a victim or B, a survivor, are they yet ready to recover? Or do they need to get out of those modalities and they need to get to the I want to be me again?
Mm.
Um, can you be a victim or be a survivor and succeed in healing?
Yeah, I think that something has to sort of switch internally that you want out. You want to be free from it. You want, some people say, well, I want to go back. You said, I want myself again. And I would have to say, like, well, there's never going back. Like, we're growing. I think about it like,
Yeah.
when you go through something intense, like a trauma, it's almost like, think about a seed that gets planted. Like a seed, its entire life, all it has known is this like encapsulated thing. And you put it in the ground, it's surrounded by darkness, but it somehow feels held and comfortable enough to completely split open, to completely lose every sense of self, but actually then reach its full potential, which is to become, a rose bush or an oak tree or whatever that seed is. And I often feel that when people have gone through a traumatic event, ours were, accidents. Other people can be a litany of other things that you've been through. But to me, it's a breakdown of this old paradigm, this old way of being, this old self. And you'll mourn that. I mean, there's some grief and you'll feel like a victim and this isn't fair and I didn't ask for it. Well, what I would say is that your higher self did, that the journey that you were meant to take in this lifetime, you were ready for the next step. And so some things had to break down and break away so this fuller expression of you could emerge. That's the way I look at it. And so I was very much in a victim mentality when I first started into all of this. And it just helped me to understand how that actually wasn't serving me, and while it might have felt justified and the people around me were agreeing that, oh, I was a victim and blah, 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 like it wasn't serving me. And it in no
Hmm.
way ever serves anyone to be in a victim mentality. Like take ownership for your life. And there are things happening. And I mean, I truly believe now everything is orchestrated divinely because we're meant to learn certain lessons. And so I do think that they're ready. It's just a question of like, are they going to take the step? They can, like anyone that's feeling like a victim or is feeling like, oh, they're in survival mode, like they need to reset their nervous system. They need to kind of get the bigger picture of life. Like they're the perfect ones to start on this journey. But there has to be an inner decision. You can't force anyone. They need to know that the option's there. They can walk down the road if they want to, but no one's forcing them down any road.
Yeah, I absolutely believe, and once again, just my belief that I believe that a victim can truly do take actions into recovery.
For sure.
A survivor can definitely take those actions into recovery, but you've really got to be dedicated to the recovery. I also
Yeah.
completely agree with you that you don't want to go back. Look, injury and healing is learning.
Hmm.
That's all it is.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're not taking these lessons, they're some of the best lessons you're ever going to get because you're learning about the capabilities of yourself. You
Yes.
know, how
Hmm.
I'm going to heal where you heal this way, I'm going to heal this way. I feel better this way. And I think that I really do believe that if we take the lessons that our bodies teach us, that can be some of the best training we've ever got, that we've
Oh, of
ever
course.
received.
I mean, there's the concept. Have you heard of the concept post-traumatic growth?
No, to be honest with you, I don't think I ever have.
Okay, this I think it's a crime. Like you've heard of PTSD, I assume. Post traumatic.
Very, very much I've heard of that. Yes.
Yeah, and probably have had it and walked a journey with it, as have I. Um, Here's what I can tell you. I think PTSD, this might be a controversial opinion. I think PTSD keeps people trapped in a victim mentality and survivor mode. And it is a label that then gets put on and you identify with, and it takes on this big persona. There are ways through it. There are ways out of it. I think the antidote is in the obstacle. You go through a traumatic experience, again, like the seed having to break away completely, because you're meant to learn, as you just said, something about the strength that actually resides within you. And you have to go internal to find it. And when you do, all of a sudden, and you'll see like people that have been through, like myself, like you know, people that have been through intense things, but then come out on the other side with gratitude for it. This is where post-traumatic growth starts, where you're able to go, wow, that trauma allowed me to grow into the best version of myself, to reach a potential that I didn't even know laid within me, right? That seed becoming a beautiful rose bush. Like that's post-traumatic growth. It goes through the trauma of completely having to disidentify and lose everything that it's known, and then be in complete darkness, to then be able to come out into the light in this beautiful new expression. And I would say that's been the case with me, right? I went through what I went through, and now I've been able to impact thousands of people with ASEA, and also, dozens and dozens with my mastery program. Yourself, right now you have the show and you're paying it forward. And it's like, that's post-traumatic growth. It's going through that and growing through it. And I think the conversation needs to switch, where I think out of like, it's not that people are trying to not be supportive. I think it's like misguided, right? Like when you have when you say to somebody, oh, I feel so sorry for you and I'm sorry that you're going through that, it's like, yes, I see that you're trying to like relate and be helpful, but it's actually not helpful. There's something called the Pygmalion effect, which is that people will rise to the level of expectation that you hold for them. Okay, so there was a study way back, little side note on what the Pygmalion effect is. A group of like kids were tested, and the teachers were told, oh, there's a group of spurters in your class. They're underperforming, they're acting like they don't know, but they're actually highly intelligent. And so they told the teachers who those people were, the kids, who they were. And at the end of the year, they came back and they kind of looked at, well, how did the kids perform throughout the year? And sure enough, the spurters had spurted. And then the researchers said to the teacher, there was nothing different with those kids. We didn't actually do a test. We made it up. And so the question became, well, why did they spurt? Well, because the teacher had this expectation of, no, you have more inside of you and I'm going to draw it out. And so I think as a society, would it not be more helpful if we said to people that were going through intense things, like, this is a blessing in disguise, and it doesn't feel like it right now. It feels like you're in the darkness and everything is breaking away, like the seed, but something more beautiful than you could ever have imagined is going to come out, because you're going to know yourself on a level that you never thought possible. You're going to have so much confidence, so much self-awareness. You're going to understand why you actually came here on this journey of life and what you're meant to do. Like, that's what comes out. That's why I have this yin yang. It's kind of blurred right now, and it's got the tree of life in it, because it reminds me that in the darkness is when the roots grow. Like, that's when you actually get secure and you create a foundation. And if we spoke to people in that way, that were going through traumatic things, and saying like, just, you're going to come out of this and it's going to be an incredibly strong tree. You got this. Rather than, oh, I feel so sorry for you and, oh, that's terrible. Like, that's going to keep you stuck. But if you have this expectation and we can pull people and make them look up and make them look higher, well, then more people are going to be able to break through the cycle of PTSD, and they're going to get to PTG, post-traumatic growth.
I said this a lot during the 22-hour podcast, that I think that we did a good job by creating the scientific explanation of what our veterans were going through after a war type scenario. It was no longer shell shock. It was no longer this. We gave it that label, PTSD. We gave it science. We gave it a name. But then that's it. That's what we did. We started trying to find the way to fight PTSD instead of looking at the person themselves. You can't tell people that they're identical, that they're going through the same thing, because they're not. And I think a lot of what you were saying, if you treat people the same way and you expect the people to get the same result, you're going to be disappointed. We're all different. We're all needing something different. And I love I love that story about the kids. I think that's, I think that just proves that, look, we've got misconceptions of others. And if we take and we lose those misconceptions, we can really do wonderful things together.
Hmm. Oh
So,
yeah. Um,
yeah, by the way, the yin yang thing in the back, I was going to mention that when we were done recording because I love that thing. That is beautiful. So, yeah, it's gorgeous, and I was waiting for us to get done recording so I can make mention
well, now
to
you
it.
know
But
why it's there. It's a
I'm glad
simple
you
reminder.
brought it up. So, um, let me ask you one more question, then I'll let you go. Your training, what there are benefits for business people as well. You mentioned earlier something about this, that you're training people how to how to do things. Like active listening would be one of those things that this can really help you learn how to actively listen, to relax in stressful situations, and really help yourself uh stay calm in those difficult situations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that the people that have been through my program, most all of them to a T are actually entrepreneurs. A couple have corporate jobs and are successful there, but most are kind of like making their own way in the world. And that requires a lot. And it requires a lot of learning how to connect with people, listen to people, build trust with people, build relationships. We all need that, whether we're entrepreneurs in a corporate job or, just you're a mom and needing to communicate with other moms. Like we all need to learn how to do that. But so many of us are so caught up in our own drama and our own minds that this loop of thoughts that never stops. And then people have no idea how to stop them. Like I teach people how to stop their thoughts within seconds, how to be able to redirect and connect into that peaceful center, and then how to just receive people and listen and have trust build like that. I mean, it's one of the things that I teach in the program because it's the kind of world I want to live in. I want to live in a world where people are present, that they're connected, they're self-aware, and they also can, receive another and not immediately snap into some judgment or, oh, you have this viewpoint, so therefore we're going to fight. Like, no, like receive them, understand, well, why do they have that viewpoint? Ask questions, be curious rather than going at somebody. And active listening is a good way to put it. Like it's exactly that. And not only because to me, there's so much personal development in this world. And look at us, like we're not in a good state. And so it's like, well, there's got to be something more. And to me, it's like you can say things at the level of the mind and create a lot of knowledge. But to me, it's about direct kinesthetic experience where we can actually shift, actually take you there, actually get you to the place where your thoughts are quiet, actually get you right into your subconscious where your blocks are sitting so we can pull out those blocks at the root and let them out. Like that's what it's about. And to me, that's where it goes from personal development to spiritual development, where we're actually able to actually go beyond the mind to where all this stuff is really laying and actually work and operate in that space, give the kinesthetic experiences, give the tools, the techniques so that people can do this on their own. I don't need to be in somebody's life forever. It's like, I just want to put you on the path and help you get there, right? Because this is all about self-empowerment. It's about learning how to master your inner world. And
Yep.
as soon as somebody shows you the way, then you're on your own, and you can handle it. So yeah, I can support with that, support with anxiety, stress, trauma. I mean, all the things. There's a lot there. Learning how to navigate change, learning where you have control and where you don't. All of those things are incredibly important. But mastering your inner world is really where it starts.
Um, I would like to add that, you got to respect another person's differences as well. I mean, you don't have to agree with them, but you can respect somebody and say, "Hey, look, I respect that you're different than me. Thank God you're different than me." So, we need our differences. Danielle, how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, there's so many ways, but you showed my website. So I would say if you go to brainbodyself.com, you'll see my phone number at the top. You can text me. If you're not in the United States, you can message me on WhatsApp. You can email me. And yeah, those are the best ways to get me. Or if you like social media, I'm on pretty much all the platforms. So all the links are also on my website to them.
Well, I want to tell you, learning about your program, hearing your story, I do feel a kinship with you. I think it's fantastic the work that you've done, you're doing, and you're going to continue to do. Uh, one last one for you, I guess. What is the end goal? Where do you want to take this?
Mm. I really just want to remind people of the light that's inside of them. I really just want to I want to live in a world of a bunch of bright lights. Like that's what I see so many people. And I think sitting on the sidelines of life for so many years, it was like watching people on almost like this loop, this track they weren't happy with, but their mind kept telling them to be there, and like the thought patterns that were happening. And it was like, I just want to break people out of that cycle and help them realize, like, wow, you have so much more. Like you have so much more that exists beyond your own mind that you can tap into. It's like, you think about the quantum field, the universe, God, infinite source, like whatever your word is for it, like it's available to everybody,
Mhm.
and it's so much better than, living disassociated with your own ego and your own mind. And my intention is to light as many other candles as I can.
I love it. I greatly appreciate you joining me, and your story is beautiful. Your mission is beautiful, and I think your story is true and true to you, and true to the people that you're sharing it with, and I appreciate it all very much. So, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Zach.
All right. I get excited when I get to talk to people like Danielle because it is kind of neat. Look, I one of the first things that happened to me after my motorcycle accident was I was wondering how I knew life was going to be different. There was no doubt about it. All right, you could tell right away that look, life is going to be different. You never knew how much, and she said right there towards the end, she had spent enough time sidelined, her life sidelined, and I can't say that that really ever happened. I immediately wanted to get up and I wanted to help other bikers and I wanted to do all these other things. I mean, my wheels were turning immediately. The rest of my body was sitting still, but it is what it is. But when I talk to people like Danielle and I get to talk to people who have gone through, that kind of trauma, it's neat because, and that's what I keep telling people, we went through something that's very similar. We both had very, very different outcomes. We both have different treatments. And just because it's similar, I'm never going to tell her, hey, you know what? I know exactly what you were feeling like. I do recognize some of the stuff she was saying. The lights. You guys can see here, I mean, if you look in the back, I've got a blue and a purple light, and I've got an orange light right next to me. And I do that because direct white sunlight or white light on me all day long kills my head. I've had a pretty bad headache all day today. I've been dealing with it for a couple weeks now. But yeah, the lights, the sounds, all this other stuff. I'm deaf in my right ear. And if I go and I get to a place where it's too loud, if I don't have something in my right ear, I was going to plug my left ear because, I'm smart. But if I don't put something in my left ear or my right ear, the deaf ear, if I don't put something in it to block the sound going in there, I get terrible, terrible earaches. Just because that nerve is shot, so there's no regulating the sound that goes into it. I get into a room where there's a bunch of people talking, and I would really rather be in a small cage made out of chalkboards with long nailed cats, because I hear every conversation going on and I can't understand any of it. And it's such a weird feeling. So I really, really appreciate uh, Danielle joining us and talking about her experiences and sharing with us that story. Um, Next, and again, folks, I do want to warn you, this next story is extremely graphic. It is a very, very sad story, but it's a story that, again, someone has taken and turned her sad story into something very strong and very positive, um, by turning it into a program to help women who have been molested and sexually abused. So Holly is also a brand new partner with us. She has got many irons in the fire, and again, this is an older. This was recorded September 11th of last year, so it's been a little while. But we're going to be recording, Holly and I are going to be recording an updated version here pretty soon. But this was recorded as a Footprints Forward. I'm being joined by Aaron and by Diamond on this, and two beautiful, beautiful women who I really appreciated them being able to sit through this show, because this was hard. This was hard for me. And it's just, it's a hard story, but this is a brand new partner, and remember, we are trying to raise money with Holly to help women who have been sexually abused. So, and we're not asking you to donate money. That's not what we want. We want you to simply shop with our partners. Just go to communitypayitforward.us, shop with our partners. When you shop with our partners, you take and turn the receipt into us. They give us the affiliate link, or they give us the affiliate award that we agreed on. And then we are going to donate 75% back to Holly. And she's going to help women who need her help. So we're going to be joining this interview in progress. So I don't know where. I'd imagine I'm going to be the one talking because, well, I never shut up. But this is our interview on September 11th with Holly, also starring the beautiful Diamond Drip and Aaron. Which is right here, or just call me at 970-909-0751. We try to help people raise money when money is needed. We also offer free clothing, free housewares, free furniture to people who need it in the northern Colorado area. We'd like to talk to you about how to work with us to work for your community. So just reach out to us. I told you I'd be the one talking. Joining us now is our guest, a friend of mine. We've gotten to know each other over the past couple months, thanks to a Colorado meeting. Miss Holly Miller. Holly, how are you doing?
I'm doing amazing this morning. Thank you so much.
Well, when you and I first started talking, I was a little confused on what was going on because you are doing the oils, the essential oils and everything, but you're doing it for a specific reason. And that reason is very, very powerful. Why don't you first tell us about your reason, please?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to first say, hi, Diamond. You got a beautiful smile, and I resonate with that big time. And Aaron, um, I do want to go to Kenya, but I also I feel the empathy for losing a sibling. My brother passed away 18 years ago, so I know what I went through. Um, but why I'm doing what I'm doing is it's extraordinarily personal. Yeah, I love my essential oils for sure. um, the emotional side of essential oils is where a lot of people don't understand. And it's been such an awesome journey of being able to understand the impact of what they can do for your body physically, as far as health concerns are a point. But when you dive deeper and you can understand that every single plant on this planet has a purpose, that's multitude of purposes, whether it's warding off and fighting bugs or bacteria, etc. And they also are multifaceted in that they can and do all have an emotional component to them. So it's understanding what they can do for you emotionally and how they can calm you down, how they can give you energy, how they can give you peace, help you sleep, maybe help you through emotional turmoil that you're going through, help you to forgive, which is huge, help to motivate you, things of that nature. So,
What is it about the oils that make them, in which, there's always the senses that we have. There's something in the senses that can always be a calming effect. Obviously, there's also the senses that can do it the opposite. But what is it about the essential oils, in which, as you can well see, I've got I've got my scented candles going. I've got the wax burner going. Usually I have some incense going. The only thing I don't have are essential oils right now. But and then of course I got the dogs going, and that their going is in the wrong direction. But you know, so yeah. But what is it about the essential oils that people are really starting to gravitate to? Because I know essential oils have become so important to so many people.
yeah, it's almost a bandwagon effect, it seems, which I guess has its pros and cons. But I think what people are starting to really understand is that your sense of smell has an instant and immediate response to memory and how your brain is going to internalize that. So if you've ever had an experience where you've walked in a room and all of a sudden grandma is on your mind and you're like, oh my gosh, this smells like my grandma's house when I walk in on Thanksgiving morning, and it smelled like the best pumpkin pie on the planet. Um, and you instantly have that memory that gives you that serotonin and endorphin rush, that dopamine feel, and it brings you such joy, and you have absolutely no idea. And that's because of that connection. And matter of fact, when you smell anything, whether it's an essential oil or an onion, it doesn't matter. Um, your brain, it goes through your olfactory, which is right here, which goes into your directly into your limbic system, which sends signals to your brain to tell your brain how to respond. It gives you a memory and you may not even know it. And so it can be good and it can be not good. Most people love the smell of like oranges and things like that because it has a release of serotonin. Um, but not everybody does, because everybody's trauma or trigger could have been they lived next to an orange field and their, childhood wasn't so great. So that can always be, an issue. But it's very interesting how it works, and I love it. I've been doing that for 10 years. It's been really fun.
You had to, well, you didn't have to, obviously. Your story, which we, if you don't mind, we'll get into now. You were driven to try to help people because of a loss that you suffered because of an incident that happened when you were very young.
Mhm.
Can you please tell us your story?
Well, it goes back, nearly 4 decades ago, because I am that old. I was,
I'm still older, and I
I was,
definitely look older, so that's all I'm going to say about that. But
hey, it's good when you still get carded at this age.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, yay. But I was 14 years old, and I was with my girlfriend Julie. I was staying the night at Julie's house, and Julie and I decided that we were going to go to a party. We were going to go to a drinking party, and we started to walk to this drinking party. Which in Colorado, when you go to these parties, they're not like at the neighbor's house. They're outside. They're far away from town. They're usually outside of city limits, things of that nature. And so we decided we were going to hitchhike to the party. And we walked quite a bit, and then we started to hitchhike. And we had a gentleman pull over, and he picked us up, and I instantly knew who he was. I was like, "Oh, hey, I know you, but I can't remember your name." And he gave me a name, which instantly sent some like weird red flag signals to me, because it didn't sound right. I'm like, "Oh, that's weird. That doesn't sound like the name I was thinking in my head." And we drove up, and the party was there, and he passed the party and kept driving up the mountain. And I'm like, "Yo, you need to pull over. What's going on? Like, hey, we want to go to the party." And he kept saying, "Well, I'm going to turn around up here. It's an easier place to turn around, blah, blah, blah." Well, he finally did pull over, and he offered both of us marijuana. And I absolutely was not having anything to do with that. I never was into drugs. And so I was like, "No, I'm cool, dude. Just want to go to the party. I want to drink some beer." And he smoked a joint, and then he did take us down and dropped us off at the party. And he stayed at this party. And my friend and I, we're drinking beer and we're having fun. And we finally are like, we got to get back to the house before we get wasted. We need to leave. And so we just decided we were going to walk. We were just going to walk home, and no big deal. We'll just walk. And so we start walking down the hill, and the next thing you know, he's in his truck and he's following after us. And for some reason, I told my friend, I said, "Julie, run." And we started to run. I don't know why, but I was afraid. It had that internal fear. And I don't know if it was Julie or if it was me. I don't remember. But one of us fell into a puddle and we got drenched. And I don't remember which one of us it was. And that's when he pulled over and stopped and was like, "Girls, come on, I'm going to give you a ride." And it almost felt as if I really didn't have much of a choice, because we're in Colorado, and even though it was the summertime, in the evening in Colorado, it's cold. No matter what time of year it is, it's cold. And so it was probably 40 or 50 degrees outside. It was cold. And now one of us is wet. And so we got in the truck and started to head down the mountain. And it was just a few minutes later when he pulls over to the side of the road, says he needs to go to the bathroom, gets out of the truck and goes behind the truck. This is when he retrieved a knife and zip ties. And then he came around to the side of the truck. I was sitting in the middle. It was just a one seat kind of bench seat truck. And I was sitting in the middle, and Julie was sitting on the passenger side, and he opened up the passenger side door and reached over with a knife to my throat. And my immediate response was to laugh because I thought it was a joke. I'm like, what? I'm like, very funny. Move on with your tricks. And I realized pretty quickly that he was serious. And he bound both of us and then made Julie lay down on the floor of the truck and then had me lay down on the bench of the truck. And he drove around for a while. I don't know how long. And I kept looking out the window to navigate where I was. It was a small town. And so I kind of knew where I was, but I wasn't 100% sure. I kind of knew where I was. And Julie was crying, and I just remember the radio was on, and I was singing to her. I don't know why that popped in my head, but I was singing to her and holding her hand with our hands tied and just telling her, we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And he finally stopped. He pulled over at a dirt gravel parking lot out of town. And he proceeded to rape us. And he raped me first. And then he raped Julie. And during this time, I never once thought that we weren't going to be okay. I don't know why. I really don't. I have no idea. But what was going through my head was, how can I get this guy? Like, how can I get him? And so I remember walking around to the back of the truck and looking at his license plate, and I memorized his license plate. I still remember it. I mean, I still remember his license plate number. I remember looking into the bed of the truck and memorizing like the things that were in the bed of his truck and where the spare tire was. And inside the truck, he had a rip in his upholstery, and I was pulling the foam and stuff out and shoving it into my pockets, and I was ripping out my hair, and I was throwing my hair into the truck. And this was long before DNA was known. Like, we didn't have any idea about this, but for some reason, this is just how my body responded. And I was just going through the motions of how I can get this guy. And finally, he's got us both back into the truck, and it gets a little fuzzy because I don't remember the specific details, but I don't know how he let us go, because during our trial, he had told the courts that he had intended on killing us. And for I don't remember if I forced him because I got the knife from him and made him drop us off, or if he had a change of heart and he dropped us off. That's where, when you go through trauma, you have this, sometimes you make up the narratives in your mind and you don't really know reality from not reality. So that part of it, I'm really pretty fuzzy on. But he ended up dropping us off fairly close to where my brother lived. And my brother's neighbor was Julie's mom. So that's where we were supposed to be staying the night. And as we're driving there, he warned us and he said, "You remember, I know who your family is. And if you say anything, I'm going to kill you and them." And the threat was not real to me, but the threat was very real to Julie. My family, I just remember thinking, ha, if you really did know my family, you'd know that my dad will put a bullet through your brain. And my brother will torture you before he puts a bullet through your brain. So that was a threat that was so laughable to me. And it never even crossed my mind that I would not report it. It just was never, ever a consideration. And we ran, and Julie ran straight home and went straight into the shower. And I ran straight home, or straight to my brother's house, and called 911.
One of the things that first got your awareness up was his age. He was sticking around the teenage party, and he was quite a bit older. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was 28 from recollection. I think he was 20. I think he was 28.
Diamond, did you?
Yeah, I had a curious just about what Zach just asked about, because you said one of the other red flags was that his name was different. Was this because like maybe he had gotten caught up before in something and he was in the paper? Like, what was the situation with that? Or was that just something internally, like intuition, that you were like, that's not your name, I don't think?
It wasn't his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as it turns out, during my trial, 8 women had come forward that he had raped before. He had moved from Denver maybe 6 months prior to him moving to my little town. And none of those women reported it.
Yeah.
So when he picked us up, his intention was to do that. The opportunity was there. We made poor choices. And the opportunity was there for him. I think originally when he first took us, he was going to, rape us at the very beginning. And he realized pretty quickly that mountain, he was new to the area. That mountain, there's nowhere else you're going to go. The only way out is back down that mountain. You're not going anywhere else. And I don't know that he knew that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, red flags.
Your relationship with your friend, was it always one of those that, you were because we've all got the relationship where one person's a little bit stronger than the other one. Was it always that way? Or, was it one of those things that really raised out of the necessity of this situation?
I just feel it's just different types of personalities. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and I grew up kind of quick, and I was on my own pretty early. We were latchkey kids before that was even a thing. Both my parents worked, and it just, I guess it was just innate in me to feel like I should protect her. Even though, if you look at it, we were both 14, it's not like I was an adult, trying to protect a child, but I think it was just personalities, innate. I'm still the same person, I still feel a very strong sense of protection. I always have, particularly with people I love. I will die on the cross for them, friends, family. So
go.
No, go for it, please.
I was just gonna say, so as a victim of sexual abuse myself, when you made the distinction that you called 911 and Julie took a shower, I couldn't help but shake my head just instinctively, because I'm like, no, you don't do that. No. So you said something about a trial. I'm just wondering what happened with Julie in that situation.
Well, the trial was pretty lengthy. I don't remember how long it took. It was probably a year and a half before he was convicted, I imagine, in jail the whole time. Julie, as soon as Julie could, she left. She moved. She moved to Denver, and she moved in with her dad. Her parents were divorced, and she didn't have the greatest childhood. And her parents didn't have very much money. And so I think she just wanted to run from the situation. And I can totally understand that. I wanted to run too, but I couldn't run. My parents weren't going to leave. So she ran and went to her dad's. And actually, during the trial, she was living in Denver. She just would come back and testify, do all the things she needed to, and then go back to Denver. So I didn't see her. I didn't see her really during the trial, or much after that, actually, at all, ever. I saw her face to face only one time as an adult, and I knew she was in a bad place. And at that point, I was probably, I think I was 23 the last time I saw her, and you could just tell she was in a really bad place. She had turned to drugs and alcohol, was in an abusive relationship, just not good. And at that point in my life, being so young myself, and I was going to college, I just decided that was something I needed to separate myself from, because at that stage of my life, I couldn't help her. I didn't know how to help her. I was barely able to help myself, it felt sometimes. And so I completely distanced myself from her and lost track of her for many, many years.
Her story, unfortunately, ends tragically. Can you tell us about the decisions she made and how it unfortunately ended her life?
Yeah, I would say about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, I received a phone call. I was a paralegal. I was working at a law firm, and I received a phone call on my cell phone, I guess. And I answered it, and it was Julie. And I hadn't heard from her. I hadn't had any communications with her in 20 years. And she was very distraught because a book had been written about the person who kidnapped us and raped us. And it was his mother who had written the book. Now, I had found out about the book maybe a week prior and had read the book myself, and I was pretty emotional as well. It was really disheartening, all of the lies and the way we were portrayed in this book. And Julie called me because she wanted us to sue the author of the book. And working in a law firm and understanding how the law works, you can sue anybody for anything. They look at you wrong, you can sue them.
Yeah.
For detriment. It doesn't matter. And I just didn't have it in me to pursue that for several reasons. Number one, financially, we would it would all be me. It would have all been my finance, my financial burden. But even more so than that, I had to really dig deep as to what my motive would be if I were to pursue a lawsuit. And to say that you won, because the woman did not have money. So even if we had won $1 million in a lawsuit, we would have never seen a penny of that money. And to put myself through reliving it over and over and over again for another trial, another lawsuit that's going to be years in the making, it was not in the cards for me. So I told her, listen, I get it. I explained to her all of my thought processes on how, and I said, would we win this lawsuit? I said, yeah, we absolutely would, because we absolutely had the facts that could prove all of the things. We had the court trials, from our testimony and everything. So yes, we absolutely would have won, but at what cost? And so I wasn't willing to do that. And I think that was just another jab, another part of the death of Julie. It was just another her feeling defeated and just more trauma, more damage, more all this. And so Julie's path went down a very dark area. And having spoke to one of her brothers after her passing last year, she just had a life of very sad. She was just very sad. She unfortunately never got therapy, never took any initiative to help herself recover. And I don't believe she ever forgave him and moved past it. It was just part of who she was at that point. It defined who she was, and not in a positive way. And I don't want to see anybody else suffer like that. And if I could be one person's road to recovery and not die 37 years after the fact, it would just change everything. And that, to me, is why I do what I do and why I chose to go down this road. And it took me years to figure it out. I had no idea. I never in a million years thought I would ever do this. I mean, who wants to talk about that? Certainly wasn't me. I swept it, underneath. Not afraid of it, but definitely not wanting to be like, oh, look at me. I was raped. I was kidnapped. I was, held at knife point. All these things that nobody wants to. I definitely never wanted that to be my scarlet letter.
Well, I want to bring this up. You didn't go through with you did not go through with the lawsuit, but you didn't sit pat when it came to this book. You took other actions. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I have a tenacity about me, and I don't like anybody to win or control or lie, particularly about me. And so, it's a small town. I was living actually in Philadelphia at the time. My husband's from Philadelphia, and so I did what I think most people who have my type of personality will do, and that's I don't sit idle. And so I called the newspaper. I made a public um, response to the book, and I was interviewed by the local newspaper. We only have one newspaper. Get the newspaper, everybody. It was front page, and I discredited her. I also had her kicked out of the farmer's market. She was selling the book at the farmer's market locally. I called the head of the farmer's market and had her kicked out of the farmer's market so she could no longer sell her book there. She had a book signing scheduled at our local bookstore. I called them, had the books pulled off the shelf, and had her book signing canceled. And I did that to as much as I could she had another bookstore that she worked with in a much, much larger town about an hour away. And I got them to do most of it. And then I had the publisher that published her book. I had them destroy the prints that they had, because she had self-published this book. And so she spent a lot of money to self-publish this book, and I made it virtually impossible for her to publish any more of the book because I had the plates destroyed. And that's just, because I was absolutely not going to allow that bullshit to be out there. My name was not going to be rubbed. She was not going to make this person, her son, out to be a martyr, which is what she called him in the book, that he was a martyr. And I just, that night taught me a lot of things. And I think one of the things that taught me is that nobody is ever going to control me again. Never. And that book was part of that little bit of control. And I was not going to take that.
I have a question based on what you just said about that control piece, because something about that like resonated in me, and I had already had like a question. So this kind of ties in. It kind of helps me answer it a little bit, but I don't like making up stories about people. So based on everything that happened, I know that for me, like I had a certain feeling of guilt around the situation itself, because like you guys, I made the choice to go with people I didn't know necessarily. And it took me like years of therapy to let go of the guilt that came with that, because it was like, well, if you had to just listen to the rule that they tell you as kids, like don't talk to strangers, then this wouldn't have happened. But it seems to me clearly like that you might have two forms of that, because one, it happened, but then also you survived. So then there's like another level. So for people who maybe, like you said, 8 women came forward that they didn't file reports. So maybe for the people who don't have that tenacity that you do, like how can you say words about how you were able to navigate that feeling of like guilt for those who may need a little bit more encouragement to come forward?
Ooh,
I
girl.
Sorry.
Well, first of all, I don't think that there's a wrong way to respond. We we would like to believe that if we're in a situation on how we're going to respond, but the truth is we have no idea until we're in that exact moment with absolutely no clue how we're going to respond. And to pretend that you do is a little bit arrogant. So, how I navigate that, I absolutely had a lot of guilt for a long time. And I probably still have some, just because we never can be so at peace with where we're at that we don't continue to try to move forward and make it even a greater journey. So when Julie died last year, I went through a huge chunk of guilt for a couple of weeks again, to the tune of where my best friend, she's like, Holly, maybe you should go back to therapy, with lots of love, because I'm one of the types of people that when I was little, I used to think that therapy was because you're weak. And now as an adult, and actually by the time I had gone through my therapy, I realized that it's actually a sign of strength, to be willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there for somebody else to judge. And so I took that and I internalized that guilt for a while. And I guess my guilt for that was that I couldn't save her again. I couldn't save her that night. I couldn't save her again. And I had some guilt because I pretty much cut ties with her at 23. And then I had some guilt that I wouldn't pursue this lawsuit to help her have closure, although I don't think it would have.
Yeah.
In a logical, in the back of your logical brain.
Yeah.
And then I had guilt that she just suffered her whole life. Like, that night killed her. It just took 37 years for it to reach the end. And I don't know. I guess you have to get out of your own way and realize that even had I done all the right things, she's going to be where she's at.
Yeah.
And I have to take myself out of the equation and just go, Julie did the best that Julie could do.
Yeah.
With Julie's mind where she was. And there was nothing that I would have been able to do for Julie at that moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wish I could really answer your question with clarity. And the truth is, I don't know. We navigate our own journeys, and we just try to love ourselves enough to have enough grace to be able to realize that I'm not God. I will never be God. I will never be perfect. I can work on having, striving for perfection, but knowing that that's never going to be an achievable goal.
Yeah.
Strive all day long and I will still never be the Lord.
Yeah.
So it's just understanding that and giving and not comparing yourself, because that's, what's that saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. Oh, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And people, and now with social media, it's at the forefront of even more of what people look at, because you're seeing this like perfect postcard moment in time of somebody's perfect life, that you don't see the 25 "I'm gonna kill you if you don't smile for this picture" moments.
Mhm.
You're like, "Ah, living the life, living the dream, I'm perfect."
Yeah.
Life is not perfect. Life is messy. Life is super, super messy. And so people will compare their lives to somebody's snapshot of perfection that that they are only letting you see. They're letting you see this tiny little bit, and our lives are so much greater than that.
Yes. Thank you.
The public itself, we know that Julie wanted you to continue with the trying to take mom to court. The public itself, did they
Hmm.
understand, or were there quite a few of them that were trying to also lead you in the way of, you need to take this lady to court, you need to do this?
Oh, not really. My husband, I mean, to be honest, he just wanted to go shoot her. Like, he just wanted to hop on a plane and fly to Colorado and just kill her, because she was the devil to him. And my husband actually went through a period of time where he was extraordinarily anxious and had trouble sleeping because of that. And he just saw everything that it was doing to me. And it was really hard for a while. I mean, I probably went through, 6 months of kind of depression. I remember calling out my best friend and just literally bawling. I mean, just bawling hysterically, because I couldn't believe that somebody would do something so detrimental to my character. And I'm like, how can this woman say this and be so brash and hard and cruel? It was just cruel. It was cruel. And it was just mean. Like, how could you say such horrible things that were so not true, and documented not true?
Did you read the book?
Mhm.
You read it from cover to cover?
Oh, yes,
And it
yeah.
takes all kinds in this world. I mean, look, we all love our kids, and we're going to try to stick up for our kids to the best of our ability, but at the detriment of someone else. I'm not going to understand that. But Holly, who were you able to go to that helped you get through this?
Oh, Maureen Knuckles, my angel. She has passed away now. Um, she was my therapist, and God bless her. I put that woman through some serious hell.
Mm,
Seriously, she just never gave up on me. She never quit on me, which was shocking, because I think I would have quit on me. I was a bullheaded kid. I'm a bullheaded person. No, I am still a bullheaded person. I was very, very bullheaded. And, we had therapy once a week, and it was like, for, I would say, almost an entire year. The only thing that came out of my mouth during that hour-long session was F you. You don't know what the F you're talking about. How the F do you know me? I mean, I basically just told her to fuck off every week after week after week. And she would pull and she'd try, and it'd be like, sorry, lady, you got nothing. You can't help me. And then finally one day she was like, and she'd been telling me this, but finally one day it got through to me. She said, you know, the only way you're going to get out of this is if I release you. And I'm never going to do that until you start talking. And I'm like, damn you, court system. I was so pissed. I was so angry. And God, they did that. Thank God. The victims advocacy was so pushy in this because she really, I mean, she saved my life. She saved my life. Absolutely saved my life.
At what point did your defiance become realization that, oh my God, this is working? I'm feeling better.
I don't know that I ever actually had a defining moment. I just wanted to get out of it. I'm like, all right, I'll just talk. Yeah, I guess I was probably 19 when she finally told me that I don't have to go anymore if I don't want to. And, you know, I went voluntarily for a while. And then I went to group therapy that she had strongly encouraged me to do. And at first I was a little bit like, I don't know how I feel about that. Nobody needs to know any more of my crap. But what was really interesting to me during group therapy is we did some seriously incredible exercises that I can't wait to do with my clients, my new clients. But I think that one of the greatest things for me was to understand that I wasn't alone. And there was one lady in particular in this group who was quite a bit older than me. I want to say, well, at that time, I mean, she was probably only like 5 years older than me, but at that point, I felt like a much older lady. And she had been raped by her father for like years and years and years, and had several children from him. And that was so, I mean, I just remember listening to her story and just crying. And I kept thinking, Jesus, what's the big deal about mine? Mine was only like 6 hours long. Like,
yeah,
what's to do 6 hours in a lifetime? And she was like 13 years and she has kids. And I'm just like, her story impacted me so much. That was a very huge turning point for me to really see. And it actually kind of led me down a path of social work. So I did social work for a long number of years, and I worked with kids in foster care, and I did AmeriCorps for a year. And I volunteered at the DA's office in a Scared Straight program that I helped, and ironically went to the prison that my assailant was in. Not at that time, because he had already been murdered at that point. But I went to that prison, and that was pretty crazy. But it was, it led me down another journey, another path. And then I went into residential treatment. I worked in residential treatment with boys with behavioral issues. They were ages 6 to 14, and that was just another like, oh my gosh, how can I feel so bad about my little moment, my little snapshot of crap, when these kids are being sold for drugs, given away so that somebody can be pleasured, so they can have, another I don't know how they divvy out, but another gram or another bag of meth or whatever. just was so incredibly disturbing. And, I did that. I worked in residential for 8 years, and that was a really hard job. It was a really hard job. And so I think just seeing um, that my little snapshot really isn't like, if these kids can survive, you know, and ironically, I've got my 8-year-old great nephew who has moved in with us, that's been living with us, and we're fostering him because my niece is a drug addict and an alcoholic, and she has abandoned her children. And so now I'm taking care of this little boy. It's so strange how it all works and how it all comes to like this full circle of life. And then Julie dies, and I have this realization that I need to do something more. And I can't just idly sit on this just because I don't want to talk about it, just because it is ugly, just because it's hard. So what?
One of the things that I can relate to you is I see people with TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, who can't speak, who can't walk, who are unable to function properly. And I see them, and like you said, it's like, what the hell? I have migraines every day. That's my curse from my TBI. And I tell them that I have migraines, and they treat me like, they're like, oh my God, how do you live with that? And I'm like, I'm able to function. I have, and it's one of those things that you look and you say, good God, things can be worse. I have a question then, Diamond. I want to send it back to you. You mentioned forgiveness. What does that forgiveness look like for this gentleman? I don't want to call him a gentleman, for this person who's no longer with us.
Mhm. I think it looks different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
For me, there was an analogy, and I'm going to screw it up really badly, but it basically boils down to holding on to anger and your right to be mad. It's like carrying around a backpack of boulders. It's kind of like you're so angry and you're so pissed off that you're going to drink some poison and you're going to expect them to die. And so there's so many different analogies out there that are so much more eloquent than how I can put it. But it was basically me holding that monkey. It was just carrying that backpack full of boulders on my shoulders. And as soon as I decided that I am not forgiving him because he deserves forgiveness, I am forgiving him because I deserve forgiveness. I deserve to have that released. And I was 19, actually. I was incredibly lucky. Again, because Maureen Knuckles was such an amazing therapist that wouldn't quit on me. And I forgave him. I forgave him for me. It was selfish for me to forgive him, and it was what I needed to do for me. And it was a huge relief. As soon as I was able to release that, be like, you're on your own journey. You have to answer to God. I don't have to. And I released it. Now, I do want to say that it wasn't just like a decision. I did a lot of things. I wrote a letter and I stapled it to a tree and I beat the shit out of it with a bat, and then I ripped it up and I peed on it after I burnt it. And I mean, I did a lot of things to be able to release and forgive and all of that stuff. And actually, after he died, I even peed on his grave. Like I did. And that was for me. That was for me going, okay, I'm done. And literally releasing. And so it looks, like I said, it looks different. And some people can just make a decision and forgive, and other people have to go through a process to forgive. And I needed to go through a process, and I did, and it was incredible. I loved it.
Well, Diamond, I know that you've got another meeting that you're delaying a little bit for, and I appreciate that. But do you? I'm going to let you do the give your last thoughts, please.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for your courage and your vulnerability to be here today. And I want to just with the theme of the show, you mentioned that when you first joined therapy, it was begrudgingly, and I get that 100%. Then eventually you got to a place where you could go and, you actually you weren't forced to. And then I know you said that your best friend currently, when Julie had passed, had brought up maybe you were considering therapy again. I don't know if you chose to do that, but in coaching, one of the things that I like to say to let people know, like, just the possibility. We have this phrase is what's possible with support is, and then you fill in the blank. And so I'm wondering if maybe as one of your last words, you could fill in the blank for us on what's possible with support after something like this.
Oh, friend, that's limitless. That is limitless. That is 100% getting out of your own way and not letting all of the fear and the unknown stop you. And there is no motivation. You either have to, you do it and the motivation comes. But yeah, get out of your own way. Don't compare
Looking
your
to
own
make a
journey
difference with your
and,
shopping? Visit communitypayitforward.us. Select the mission or cause you want to support and scan the QR code. You have two options. Click the first link and browse our giving partners, or use the second link to tell us what you need, and we'll find the right partners for you. Shop with these partners and keep your receipt or invoice. Next, click a picture or simply upload a picture of your receipt to the portal in every form, adding your name and email address. Your purchase now turns into a donation to the mission you've chosen. Community Pay It Forward shares your business story with those in need of your services to rally support for those who need us all.
Such an amazing story. Aaron, I hope you're doing well, my friend. I know that story really affected her deeply. And it it affected myself deeply. It truly did. I want to welcome Holly to the family, the Community Pay It Forward family, as both. Not just a mission partner, she's also a giving partner. Her Sarah, her coaching, all that. If you hire her, she will donate to a cause. Yet you can also support her by using this QR code up here. Anytime you make any purchase using this QR code and turning in the receipt to this QR code, you can support a female in the community who needs her coaching. One of the things that really caught me off guard on that is, wow, my fish tank was tiny back then. That was an older fish tank. So, hey, everybody, that's all the time I've got for today. I want to thank you all very much. Please remember to love somebody out there, because somebody out here loves you. If you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. Please make sure you remember no one needs to go it alone when we all come together. Thank you very much. We will see you next week.
Stepping out of her fear, bring me home, out alone, and show me the way. You wanna be a part of Sunset Boulevard.